Hey everyone, this is James. So, a couple of people on Facebook and a couple of other forums have been asking me about getting their PlayStation 3s hacked and what they would be able to do after I do the mods on it. So I'm basically just making this video to kind of sum up, the answer that I would give to everyone. I could just refer them to this video. So, I would be modding it in the same way I would have mine modded, given your PlayStation 3 has the correct conditions. And what those conditions are is that you have a early model fat PlayStation 3 that is running the system software version 3.55 or below. If you're running anything over 3.55, that would require me to have a hardware flasher, which I don't currently own, nor do I need one, so I actually don't have one. So without further ado, I'm going to show you my PlayStation 3 as it starts up and some of the basic functionality that it includes. Alright, so let me just turn my TV on here and turn the system on. So as you're about to see the PlayStation 3 start up on the screen. It's going to have a different game boot. That's my little message to Sony there. So that's fully customizable, as is the theme as well. So it doesn't have to be that way. This is my current theme that I'm running. This is the Heavy Rain dynamic theme. And there's also other themes you can use. I'll just give you a quick gist of that. This is the Dragon Ball dynamic theme, which is awesome. So basically it looks like a normal PlayStation 3. This one is running the 4.31 version 1. I'm not sure about the subversion, but it's the Rogero custom firmware made by the PlayStation 3 developer Rogero, which I have it spoofed to look like it's version 4.4, which is the latest Sony released firmware. This allows me to get on PlayStation Network. So one of the interesting things that you have is under your game section, right? It'll look the same, but you also have these two options. And these will come very handy when you start modding your system. The At Home PS3 game right here, this acts as a mount point so that you can play games off of the hard drive. And the Install Package Files menu allows you to install, basically to kind of make it simple, allows you to install homebrew applications and games that you download off the internet. So using this is equivalent to downloading it off of PlayStation Network and installing it to your PlayStation 3, except you're doing it yourself, which allows for some interesting things to happen. So the way I have my game set up is I have them in categories. So we have arcade titles, which of course I have Dragon's Lair. We have backup managers, which I'll get into these in a second. We have DOS games, which right now I currently have Commander Keen Episode 1 and the first Ultima. So you can also have emulators to play, older systems, which on this machine I have just about every console that you can get a PlayStation 3 emulator for, which is all a part of the RetroArch package. So under hacking, I have tools that I use to repeatedly mod my system to make it do other things that I want it to do. The Cold Boot installer is something that I'm not using anymore, just because this software was made for software version 3.55, specifically for the Rebug firmware, but it technically works for all of them. Install package files, game data, code unique. This is basically a Game Shark. USB game launcher. React PSN is a really fun thing. Basically, if you download a PlayStation Network game, you don't have to actually buy it to make it run. You would use this software to pull that off. And the Rebug Toolbox, and this is this system software spoofer. The Rebug Toolbox includes things like, for instance, QA flagging the PlayStation 3. Which honestly is kind of complicated to explain, so I'm not going to bother. So we have PlayStation games. I installed all these myself. These are all PlayStation 1 titles, all playable off the hard drive. It also includes some games that never came out, like Resident Evil 1.5. And a couple others. We have Thrill Kill. This game never came out. This game actually, it was never really completed, although it is playable, but it eventually became Wu-Tang Shaolin style. So this game and this game are basically the same thing. And then we also have some other games. We got DDR, of course. I have DDR. Gotta have DDR. Dragon Ball GT Final Battle, Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Battle 22, two of the greatest PlayStation games. So the other interesting thing that this mod will allow you to do is, normally the PlayStation 3, before Sony started releasing PS2 games on PSN, it would not, most PS3s would not play PlayStation 2 games, unless you had the original 60 gig model, which is hard to find nowadays. But, recent mods by, some PlayStation 3 developers, namely, I don't remember the guy who actually reversed the encryption keys used to sign the PS2 classics. However, I will note that I've used Captain CSX's software to pull this off. So we have the PlayStation 2 Classics placeholder, which acts as a placeholder for any PlayStation 2 ISO you may want to use. We have Grand Theft Auto San Andreas and Grand Theft Auto Vice City. This software I'll show you in a bit. So, alright, so PlayStation 3 games. So in here I just have, games that I installed. Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD, of course. I love Tony Hawk classic games. PlayStation 3 Doom, of course. Limbo, I only have the Limbo trial because if you're going to mod your system to play PS2 games, then you need a certain file that you can only get by logging into PlayStation Network and downloading a demo and installing it. It's a DAT file called act.dat. It's required for encryption keys. Far Cry 3, of course. Far Cry 3 is amazing. Angry Birds, because who doesn't have Angry Birds? Bejeweled, Street Fighter, Marvel's Capcom, and of course, Mortal Kombat. Okay, so to get more in depth, so let's go back to the backup managers. So I have 3 backup managers that I use. So Iris Manager, PS2 Classics Manager, which will eventually become PSP and PS2 Classics Manager, and Multiman. So I'll show you Multiman to give you a gist of what this is like. And this is pretty cool. So we're going to start Multiman, which is a backup manager programmed by the god of the PlayStation 3 world named, I'm not sure if it's Dink or Dean K. So this is basically PlayStation 3 games that I have installed to the hard drive. Now mind you, I own all of these games. These are not pirated. So we have BioShock Infinite, Crysis 3, Dead or Alive 5, DMC Devil May Cry, which is a horrible game, Mortal Kombat, Mortal Kombat vs. DC Universe. These are just some homebrew titles. Tomb Raider, Visual Boy Advance, which I have no idea why it's in this menu. So, if you want to play a game, right, you could just pop in a PS3 disc at this point and install it to the hard drive. But if you want to play a game off this menu, all you got to do is just, for instance, let's pop in BioShock Infinite. While it's running, and by the way, this background music is awesome. I have no idea what it is or who it's by. Just press the X button. And the PlayStation 3 is now going to reboot. And I'm going to go ahead and show you how you play the game once you actually have it mounted from Multiman. Right, so now the App Home PS3 game that I showed you before now turned into this. And now the PlayStation 3 basically thinks that I popped a disc in. This is done through emulating the Blu-ray drive, which is called BDEMU, Blu-ray Drive Emulator. That might not be totally correct, but for the sake of making this a very, very basic video, so you would hit X and the game would launch without a disc in the drive. Now, mind you, my actual Blu-ray drive is broken, but once you do this, you don't actually need it. Now, just to make a quick note, I showed you that I had 3 backup managers. The PS2 Classics Manager is basically Multiman, but for PlayStation 2 games, and I'll show you that now. And of course, it has a 360 theme to it. Nice. Alright, so this is the list. I have a Final Fantasy X theme on it. As you can see, you have Yuna there, Titus there, and it has a Xbox 360 kind of Blades theme to it. So, PlayStation 2 games are listed here. So we have The Bouncer, we have Final Fantasy X, X-2, God Hand, which is an awesome game if you haven't played it. ITG in the Groove, of course, because this is my PS3. Trigger Heart Excelica Extended, which is another amazing game, and Silent Hill 3 because that game scares the shit out of me. So let's choose good old Final Fantasy X-2. So we're gonna press X to activate it in the PS2 Classics Manager placeholder. So now when we go to PS2 games, go ahead, PS2 Classics, and now you'll see that the PS3 is now playing PlayStation 2 games. The PS3 does do like a soft reboot. I'm not sure why. I think it has to do with how the hardware loads the PS2 emulator. But there you go, PlayStation 2. And just to prove that this is actually running on the PlayStation 3, as you can see, you have to push the PS button up there. And when we actually hit the PlayStation button, we get an XMB menu. So just to show you, I'm not like trying to fool you guys or anything. Oh, I'm sorry, I accidentally picked the bouncer. That's fine. So yeah, that's basically it. That is my hacked PlayStation 3. It takes a good 6 to 7 hours to get it to that point because there's a lot of bugs to iron out. And, you know, that's it. Anyway, have a nice day.